What is going on, guys? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factory for another episode of Extra Drop, our Yu-Gi-Oh podcast we do talking about something in the game. Could be product release, could be meta, could be stories, whatever. But this week we're talking about, since locals are finally readily accessible to everybody and we've all gone back, we're going to be talking about what we're playing, our experiences, and how we enjoy being back. But before I get into that, I do want to mention that we have a Discord server where there's a lot of people to talk to. If you want to match, most likely somebody will be able to get with you. There's casual players, there's competitive players, and if you really enjoy shit talking, me and Joe, feel free to join. But if you haven't checked out the Duel Factory on YouTube, it's youtube.com/the Duel Factory. He uploads deck profiles, combo tutorials, and he's very, very good at what he does, so check him out. With that being said, let's jump into our first week back at locals. Yeah. So for me, it's been a year and 3 months since I got to go, since I have chosen to go. Yeah, it's a very long time. I've missed a lot, but I've been going 2 weeks now, and it's been a blast. It's great to be back and seeing people unrestrictively play the game like I remember. So we do have a new ban list that we talked about a little bit last week. If you haven't listen to that, that's our thoughts. But I played Sky Striker, and I believe Joe played Pure Tri Brigade, and I'm really liking the way this format is shaping up right now. It's still early, so things can change. The Yu-Gi-Oh community can very easily find something that makes me dislike the format, but as of right now, I feel like this is a very fun format to play. And for me, fun is interaction and not instant loss games, right? So like a wombo combo that if you don't open it optimally, going second against them, you basically guaranteed to lose the game. I hate those formats. And right now, it doesn't seem like anything is just aggressively powerful that is going to set up and you can't play against it, or they're going to go second and they can just obliterate you. Now, that's not always the case. You could open less than optimal, they can open optimal, and you're dead. That's the game. But by and large, I felt like I could play every game, and I wasn't under the assumption that I'm dead. If I don't establish something, I'm dead. So, how was your experience back with Pure Tri Brigade?
The locals experience is really good for me, especially after I've been playing for a little bit. I chose to play Pure Tri Brigade, mainly because me and you had been testing. You were playing Striker, I was playing Tri Brigade, and I thought like the deck had a really bad game one matchup against your deck. And we were looking for a supplemental engine for it, and I was playing a Dogmatica version of it just because I really like the Dogmatica cards, but I ultimately decided those cards weren't very good. So I just took them out and just played like a pure version with like Rescue Cat as the normal summon, and I like the consistency of my deck. So I'm a big fan of like one card engines, and all the Tri Brigade cards facilitate that, and cards like Rescue Cat facilitate that, so that's why I decided to play that. But yeah, it was a good experience. I went 4-0. And I really enjoyed how my deck played. I liked the lineup of hand traps I chose. I'm not sure if I like back row removal this format, but overall the performance is really good for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with back row removal. When it's good, it's awesome, but it's like, do I want to commit to the main deck spots to play it? Do I want it in the side? How many? Is it worth playing? And that's the thing I'm getting caught up on right now. But it's a new format. We'll figure it out. As far as me with Sky Striker, I took it pre-list and then I took it again post-list. And by and large, it's I don't want to say it's the same because Engage is a very good card, but I think half my matches I didn't even see Engage, didn't care for it. The Sky Striker cards are as good as they've ever been. The thing about Sky Striker versus Tri Brigade is Sky Striker feels like I can't remember whose video I was watching. They're like, it feels like a turn 4 deck, right? You're trying not to die until you get online, and then you just bleed interruptions and advantage. And it kind of follows that really old article, like Who's the Beatdown? Like Sky Striker takes a very long time to get going, but if you let it get going, you're probably screwed. You know what I mean?
That's a problem I actually saw in the Sky Striker matchup when I was playing. Once you get past like turn 3 or 4, if you haven't already put in like yourself in a winning position, it's very hard to win. That's why I had to like change like the actual like main deck cards in my deck.
Yeah. So overall, I think Sky Striker is positioned really well, but personally, I think Tri Brigade is positioned incredibly well. Now, I haven't seen too much Drytron being messed with in those situations. So Drytron is looking like probably the most scary combo deck, but it's not like overwhelmingly. What's the word? It doesn't set up something where I feel like I can't beat it, even though it has an Omni negate with a bunch of negates. Like, it doesn't feel unbeatable because there is counterplay and there's very easy ways to deal with what they do. But Drytron is again one of those scary decks that it once it sets up and it has all its resources in the grave, it's very scary. So
it's one of those decks, right? Like Drytron. So my deck, Tri Brigade, and your deck, Sky Striker, right? Drytron has like the same thing like Thunder had going for it, that it has like the craziest game one, right? So like if it wins at Ice Roll goes first, like it's not losing. That's just like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's games 2 and 3 that become kind of hard. And me and Aaron were actually talking about this beforehand because of all like the side deck hate that could be cited against decks like Drytron. Because a lot of the side deck stuff, like it's generic across the board for all the decks, and Drytron just falls under a lot of the categories, especially for stuff like main deck cards too. So you have to keep that into like consideration as well. But like the fact that it has such a crazy game one, I think it's one of the things that's going to keep it a tier 1 deck in the format. And I think it's one of those things is as the format progresses, I think the decks is going to get better and better as people learn to play through the interactions. But right now, I think it's placed really well with the other decks.
Yeah.
But
so
like
I could see that deck taking off and kind of separating itself from the rest of the decks of the format, because it is more, in my opinion, it is more inherently powerful than the other decks that are around. Like Tri Brigade is very good, but it does a few things pretty well. Drytron is kind of like it fucking negates everything always, so it's very scary. But like you said, it has a ton of counterplay post game one, which is where most of your games are played. So that's why I'm not super against Drytron, because it doesn't automatically make me lose the game all the time. Like if you have a kaiju, you can play the game. You might have to deal with some heralds, but at least you can play the game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know, it's just kind of crazy. I think I like the deck personally because it's like it only takes like 2 or 3 cards to play or something like that, like most traditional combo decks. But I think it also has a disadvantage of that part. Like for example, my deck, right? One of the things I like about it so much, it's like Prank Kids, older Zoo decks. What's another deck that has 1-card starters I'm trying to think of? Or like Alistair's like a 1-card starter, right?
Yeah, there's
like it gets to play it.
There's a huge difference playing off of 1 card versus playing off of 2.
Yeah.
And seeing a Drytron player only open one name is you can see how quickly like the deck just does nothing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
it also that deck also kind of scares me because it has something in common that one of the best decks Yu-Gi-Oh ever had also had in common, and that's Dragon Rulers. Is like your graveyard's your second hand, right? Like whenever you're playing and you go past like turn 1, you just have like a plethora of effects that can activate in your graveyard, and like that's just incredible for like especially like the longevity of a game too. So like that's one of the things that kind of scares me about that deck, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So in my mind right now, there's like Tri Brigade, Drytron, and then there's see, I think a lot of people are talking and experimenting with Sky Striker, but I still don't know if it's up there with those two personally. And then there's everything else. You know, you got the guys that are playing Salad, Sky Striker, Dino still. You do have people theorying Dragon Link, like, but I think Tri Brigade and Drytron are like kind of above everything else. And then Sky Striker just has a spotlight on them, so it feels like they're up there with them. But I honestly don't think they are. And if they get to that point, Sky Striker right now is super easy to side against. Like, extremely fucking easy to side against.
Oh, it's very easy. That's partially why I play the Tri Brigade deck, mainly because I have the advantage that, like, my Shurag, my boss monster, I can use it. I can use it more than just like to interrupt my opponent. I can use it turn 1, and I can search hand traps like DD Crow, which I think is crazy against that deck. So that's one of the things that led me onto it. Although I'm not gonna lie, the Sky Striker deck, because I played 2 Sky Striker matchups when I played my locals this week. Almighty Engage resolving with 3 spell cards in graveyard is actually just insane. Like every time it resolved, I immediately felt like I was behind in the match. Like
Yeah.
immediately. That's how much pressure that one card puts.
Especially if like they end phase searched it and then they like you don't have a way to stop their Kagari and they resolve it twice. That is a ton of advantage. So yes, Sky Striker is very good, and I don't know where it falls because, like I said, like your deck, Tri Brigade can play cards like Prosperity, Games 2 and 3, and dig for the anti spell and dig for the Imperial Order and the side deck cards. Where I can't play Prosperity. I've tried it, especially post engagement. It's unban. It's really not worth it. So when you have cards like Evenly Matched, Lightning Storm, DD Crow, Tri Brigade, and like Doom Eagle plus the searchable DD Crow. There's a lot going against them from establishing themselves in that top tier, but it very easily can happen because of how grindy the deck is. It's still just, I don't want to say just as good as it ever was because it's not, obviously, but is still very good.
That one card literally gives you such a power up. It's actually kind of. I didn't believe it until me and you were actually testing the other night when we were sitting there just playing. I didn't realize how powerful that one single card actually makes your deck.
Because it's
Like,
not,
don't get me wrong, like it's still Sky Striker, and it's still like probably. I'm going to be 100% honest. It's probably the most ideal going second deck that we have for us right now, simply because of all the interactions that like your deck actually has, and like your like requirements to play are so minimal. You can play very like powerful and teched out cards and stuff like that. For an example, like when I was playing against Aaron, who was playing Sky Striker, and he didn't open like Ideal, but he opened 3 spell cards and he opened Forbidden Droplet, and then he established his grave. He added Engage at the end of the turn and forced it, like literally with that in my mind, it put me on a clock playing Tri Brigade. So I had to play through his interactions, but he literally had just enough to stop any of my plays going through. And then I just immediately fell behind because, like I said, Almighty Engage is all for 3. That draw doesn't seem powerful, but bro, so many bomb cards you can draw on that deck. And then like I think as the format develops, like we were talking about how Drytron was, I think, is going to get better. I think Sky Striker as a deck itself gets better because then we're going to find like the ideal way to play it. I think the extra deck is probably solved right now, which is kind of scary. It's the main deck that concerns me because you can play other things. Like they're not playing mine right now, but I'm sure there's something out there that deck can play that other decks can't, that I think is just going to be crazy, and that kind of scares me about it too. But
yeah, I don't know. If we look back at the plethora of hits that Sky Striker has, every new format it does struggle to kind of like establish itself because it's a deck that needs to adapt to an established format, just like Trickstar did back in the day. Because it's a deck that isn't on the power level of other decks. It needs to tech out the main and side deck to cater to the metagame. In an open metagame, it is going to struggle to be at that power level, and that's why I don't exactly know what level it's on compared to everything else because it is so new. But I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to play it probably the entire format. As far as like how I'm playing it, I'm still playing to go second, but I did have to go first a few times, and it's more or less the same thing. Shizuku set 1 pass, like it is what it is. You just try to live that turn 1 and turn 2. I personally feel like if you're not playing Desires, you're kind of missing out on what the deck is trying to do. Get spells engraved, get card advantage. It's a free activate spell card. You shouldn't warp your entire strategy around preserving that 1 engage. Now, if it's possible to preserve it, like not risk the DD Crow or the Bell on the Kagari, cool. Try to search out Shizuku, but don't be afraid to play Pot of Desires because your Sky Striker cards are good. You know what I mean?
Your deck's one of those decks, kind of like mine, that it thrives on its +1 cards, and I think you have to. I think right now you have to play Desires. I think you're absolutely correct for doing that.
Yeah.
+1s in Yu-Gi-Oh are powerful. They always have been. But your deck's also like in a weird position, right? Because it can't play card. Like my deck can play Prosperity right now, which I tested this week instead of Desires. But your deck can't play that. It definitely can't play Extrav. It's too big of a cost. And then I don't think there's any other like powerful pot cards or anything like that. But
I mean, there's Avarice, and we were talking about this a little bit beforehand. I feel like Avarice right now is like a locals card. If you do just want to play it, when it's good, it's going to be phenomenal, and when it's bad, it could lose you the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But as far as Tri Brigade goes, you tested out the Dogmatica engine, like you're saying, which it just isn't positioned very well. And pure Tri Brigade, honestly, I feel like is the best way to go because the engine is so small. It offers a lot of versatility, and especially in the extra deck. Like, it doesn't make your extra deck so tight. You're not trying to play the Simorg combo. You're not trying to like fit any of these other cards. It just lets you you can play 2 of your Link 2s, or 3 of your Link 3, just whatever you're feeling is relevant, and it gives you the more flexible spots. But what do you think?
So my thoughts with Tri Brigade is, again, I was trying to find a supplemental engine to go with it, and we play the Dogmatica cards, and they're not positioned well. It's 100% correct on that one. It's one of those decks I think gets better whenever like there's an engine that actually supplements it well. For example, the Zoo engine before Drytron got banned did that very well. It gave you access to cards like Zeus and stuff like that are really good against decks like Sky Striker. Or it's not as popular right now, but I think Alter Guys start seeing a little bit more popularity because the format slowed down a little bit. But we'll see. That's just a 100% guess. But my favorite part about the pure Tri Brigade deck is you weren't necessarily like one thing I noticed playing the Zoo version of it is I was so worried about like all the intricacies and combos that you could actually do playing like the multiple engines that I missed how like the simplistic plays of the actual Tri Brigade monsters themselves actually worked out. Like, for example, 2 Tri Brigade monsters, like 2 different names, doesn't matter which ones they are. Like, you could always end, if necessary, you could always end on like the trap card plus Appaloosa, and Appaloosa and the trap card is actually a really, really powerful board this format, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And then
I feel like if you resolve the trap card plus a Link 4 search, like you are in a very, very good position, and it's actually pretty hard to lose that lead position.
Yeah.
Like, that's
like,
such
what
a
is it? Whenever
strong
I was
setup.
Yeah. And then whenever I was playing this weekend, one of my favorite plays to do, like, so I only do this if I open like the actual trap card itself. But like if I open the trap card, instead of making like a Link 2 with like my first like with my first Tri Brigade monster, I would make the Link 4 Shurag. Because I'm playing pure, I can play 3 Shurag and I can afford the burn one. I would do that and link it off into like a Farrajet or a Bear Broom, right? Well, if I have a trap card, I'll go into Farrajet. But I would do that, and then I would search like an extra interruption like DD Crow, because DD Crow's a wing beast, so you can search that. And then like your board's still ending on Appaloosa trap card, but then you add DD Crow on top of it, giving you another layer of interaction, not to mention the other cards in your hand. And that's something that deck can do that like not a lot of decks can. Another deck that can do that, but I don't think it's positioned very well because it's lost too much, is the Dragon Link deck, because the new versions of it play the Dragoonity cards. And they play cards like Dragoonity Knight Gadurge that can search dragons or wing beasts. So technically it can also search DD Crow. So it's something that deck can do as well. But it's not as positioned as well as the Tri Brigade deck. So I think you're going to see it more prevalent in that version. But it's one of the few decks that can do that, and can also main deck cards like Imperial Order or Anti-Spell if necessary, because its engine's so small. So as for a deck going forward in the format, I think it's positioned very, very well. Now, I could gravitate towards something other than combo deck, to a combo deck like Drytron or something like that. But I think moving forward, if I'm going to continue playing this format, unless something like super powerful comes out, kind of like on like the Thunder Dragon level, I think it's the deck I'm going to play for the format, simply because it has unique interactions that only it has.
Yeah, I think as far as like it has the ability to, post turn 1, it has the ability to just straight kill your opponent. Right, depending on setup, depending on hands. Like, Revolt is such a resource-efficient card for your engine. It's actually, like, that card is nuts.
It's essentially soul charge on your opponent's turn. That's the crazy part.
Personally, I'm maining Bell. Like, Bell has a lot of good interactions right now, but that hitting that plus hitting the ritual spell for Drytron, like, are two of the big selling factors, mostly for Revolt, because I'm more afraid of losing to snowballing advantage from Drytron or Tri Brigade than I am to losing to Drytron. Because like if Drytron sets up good enough, like there's nothing I can do. But Tri-Brigade,
Oh yeah.
if you let them get that revolt and then that surge after you lose a card from the banish, like, and then they're going to do the same thing next turn, summon Doom Eagle, banish your cards, like maybe Doom Eagle goes up to 48, like that deck can just fucking pop off out of nowhere, and it's really cool. I love their design. I like how they weren't like there are restrictions on them, right? You see, you can only link summon using Beast, Wing Beast, or Beast Warrior, but it doesn't say Tri-Brigade. And I know that's not relevant in the pure build, but because Konami didn't overly restrict them, it opens up to mixing and matching. Like I saw somebody playing Lunalight Tri-Brigade, and I don't think that's that good, but I like that it's an option. I think Tri-Brigade.
See that list? That sounds super saucy.
I think Tri-Brigade is super fun, and if I wasn't such an SS fanboy, I would be playing Tri-Brigade, 100%.
Oh yeah, I think the one thing. Then this is what I'll notice, and this is what I'll say about the deck. Right now it's positioned well because of the matchups, but I think the biggest flaw of the actual Tri-Brigade deck itself, right? Its biggest strength is that it can summon Link monsters for free, right? Like that's its big niche. Like it can summon Wing Beast, Beast Warrior, or Beast type Link monsters by just banishing materials from the graveyard, and that feature's absolutely insane. I think where you're going to start seeing the problem, and people are going to start picking up on it in the matchups, and I hope it doesn't actually hold true, is your actual pool of cards that you can summon off the Tri-Brigade monsters is actually incredibly limited.
Yeah.
So obviously you have all the Tri-Brigade monsters themselves, right? So you have Shurag, which is the best one, Farragut, Bear Broom, and Rugal if needed. Those can all be summoned off the Tri-Brigade links. But then if you look at the utility ones, now granted, the pure build has more room for utility link monsters that can be summoned off of it. For example, my favorite one I played this weekend was Darumidol because it dealt with floodgates that my deck couldn't naturally deal with if you didn't have it. But then you look down the line, and then there's Doom Eagle, which is really good against Sky Striker, and Double Dragon Lord, which is really good interruption. It's a non-targeting interruption too. But then once you look past that, there's not a big list of like link monsters that can actually be summoned off them that are actually like game breaking. And then once the meta shifts, once we see like new cards get put into rotation and stuff like that, I think that's where you're going to start seeing like the actual limitations of the deck because we don't have more utility cards to summon off the monsters. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing like the glaring flaw in the deck. But I also could be wrong on that, but that's just my theory on it.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see which build of the deck comes out as universally accepted. Because if you guys have been looking around, it's really hard to find a solid answer from anybody about like what's the best way to play a deck. And that's fine. I'm happy we are forced to experiment. We are forced to play to figure out how we should play these decks. Like I've seen 10 different Sky Striker lists, and they are wildly different between all of them. You know, some are playing the Foolish Goods package with Metal Foes Fusion to go first. Some are playing just a ton of one-of powerful spells that are insta-playable, so you can bin them and get your 3 spells online. Like, I like how we have no idea what is good right now, and it makes it a lot harder because we don't have the regionals. Like, every new format, it's like, let's wait for the first major event so we can see what topped, right? Like, I hate that we don't have those to look at, but it's nice to see the community forced to play the game rather than looking at somebody for the answers. Like, I really like that.
It makes for a really, really good format, and I'm excited for Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Although I'm always excited for Yu-Gi-Oh! Who am I kidding? It's more important that you're excited for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. I've been having a blast. As far as, like, side deck cards go, I played a lot of 2-ofs this weekend just because I kind of want to get a feel of like how the cards perform when I draw them. Phantasme was really good for me, but I didn't play against Drytron. It didn't do anything but draw me cards, and that was enough. You know, I get to see 2 more cards. So Phantasme was really cool because I played Prank Kids, which it was good against, Salad, which it was good against, Sky Striker, which it was good against, and Paleo, which it just stayed in the side. Lightning Storm was super good. this weekend. And then I wish I could play Anti-Spell because that would have been fucking great. But obviously I can't.
Anti-Spell Fragrance is actually just crazy. It's probably my favorite side deck card right now because it's literally like you flip in, if they don't have immediate out, the game's over. You just won.
Yeah.
What did I side, though? I sided like Nib and Droll. I never really saw them. I didn't. I liked it. It was weird. So I played my deck, and I elected not to play Imperm in my deck, even though it was really, really good in the mirror match. But I never played a mirror, so I don't know how good it actually is.
Okay.
But I opted to play back row removal because my game one striker matchup was so bad. But like I never drawed it against this deck, so I don't actually know how good the card is. But I think it's the correct call.
Yeah. So.
Lightning Storm's also crazy.
Yeah, I sided Twin and I mained MST just as like a pseudo starter. Would I do that again? Probably not. I feel like that was one of the weak points of my deck, but it did come when it was good. It came in clutch. So there's that. And then for any SS players, I was against it for the longest time. The Selene, the Hulk Selene combo with Valor is extremely powerful right now. The decks are pretty easy to deal with, and then when you can just end with I'm going to break everything that I didn't already deal with and fucking punch you for 53, like that's pretty good. Especially if it's backed by a multi-roll set too. So I was against it. I was against that combo. If you haven't messed with it, I would say right now is a really good time. I think it's really strong right now, which is why I was playing Valor instead of Imperm.
I don't know. I keep going back and forth, but like, I want to play Valor. I think that card's really good. I just don't have the room in my main deck currently.
See, I would like, if it wasn't for that combo, I would play Imperm because multiple times I just needed to deal with an Apollosa at the start of my turn, and I was unable to do that, right? Now,
Apollosa, what is it? Because what about my exact words? I thought Apollosa was like really, really bad against your deck. But then, like, actually playing in, like, actual tournament setting, and then, like, after meeting, like, got done testing, it's actually really, really good. I didn't think it was going to be, but, like, it's kind of crazy because, like, it's another way to turn Ray off, which I didn't think about initially, and it's another way to turn off, like, your opposing hand traps, which I really liked that. But, like, if you Widow Anchor me, I'm ready to flip the table every time.
Like if I draw one of the 5 to 6 answers to Apollosa, it is what it is, you know, but I'm not going to draw those every time. But you can open the Apollosa play every time. Just about.
Every single time.
Yeah.
That card's... Can't believe how good that card actually got. And like all it took was like the right deck for it to come out, but that card actually just became like broken overnight. But unless you play against people like Aaron who always draw Forbidden Drop against you, shout out to him. I was not happy about that.
Yeah. So overall, my experiences, I'm very happy to be playing again, especially in a format that is not overbearingly powerful. But Joe, we're running out of time. So do you have any final comments or thoughts you want to get out about your experiences back?
I love that Yu-Gi-Oh is actually like becoming a game again, that we can actually go and attend in real life. I'm very, very happy with my deck choice, and I'm very happy to keep testing it going forward. I think it's 100% going to be the deck I play for competitive play and in the foreseeable future, unless something else crazy comes out. But as always, do not forget, Douglas French simply has no sauce.
Low, you have no sauce. Oh, hey.
Well, guys, it has been a blast having this podcast and actually being excited to do it, to talk about this game again. So if you have enjoyed, please check out our past episodes. We have a lot of good ones. And we'll hopefully have this same time, same place every week, Monday, 8 a.m., iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, 10 a.m. on YouTube. And if you don't get to catch the live recording, because I do stream these on Sunday, then join the Discord so that you can get that notification to the stream. So with that being said, I will see you guys back here next week. Peace out.
Okay, bye.